So welcome here to Facebook Live. Oh my goodness, we're here. Mike is here. Look at Mike. Mike is here. Mike is there. And I am here. And we're in the Charney's Menswear and Tuxedo Studios. There it is. And right below us here, you see the 2019 Fantasy Rookie Discussion and the beautiful ticker that is on the bottom that gives you all that wonderful information. Find us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, on Twitter at Call DT, on Instagram at wakeupcall_DT. All of the beauty is right here below you, and that ticker is constantly running, giving you the information that you need. Charney's Menswear and Tuxedos is giving every single man, no matter what your age or what your style is, exactly what you need to go home happy. And we, as fantasy football gurus, I'm doing it, Mike. I'm calling us gurus. We've done it long enough. If you've been doing it for, I don't know, for me, I think I started at 12 to kind of pay attention to this stuff, and I'm 33, so 21 years of having some fun, and Mr. Sofka has been doing this for a long time as well. He has HallOfFameFantasyFootball.com, and you got the discount. If you go to HallOfFameFantasyFootball.com right now, look at that. Look at what does that sign say? It says discount Orlando 40. If you type Orlando 40, you get a big-time discount to go do some fun stuff with Mike Sofka. So with that being said, we're on our live internet video and audio feed, and we're here to talk with you about the fantasy rookies. We've done all the quarterbacks, all the running backs, all the wide receivers, all the tight ends. You can watch all of those videos in one place by going to wakeupcalldt.com and clicking on the fantasy football tab at the top of your page. And now it's time to talk strictly about the rookies, because many people are going to overlook them. Many people are going to forget them, and sometimes they're not ranked in those books that you pick up. So Mike and I are going to make sure that we get you ready. Mike, that was a long-winded intro to tell everybody how much I undyingly love you. How are you doing today?
Awesome. How about yourself?
Doing very well. So Mike Sofka is hanging out with us here this morning. We're always having a good time on Facebook Live and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. The fantasy rookie discussion of 2019, Mike. Shall we start with the quarterbacks? Can we talk about the fact that the number one overall pick in the real draft was Kyler Murray? Where does he stand, and where do the fantasy quarterbacks stand? Let's have an open discussion about the rookies that we might need to think about drafting, and maybe some that we need not think about drafting.
Well, definitely in a dynasty format, I'm considering Kyler Murray just for the partnership with Cliff Kingsbury, the new rookie tight wide receivers they brought in. What's going on there in Arizona is they're setting him up for success. They doubled down after they drafted him, and they went out and they got Keem Butler, Andy Isabella. They kept Larry Fitzgerald in the fold, and I really think that this is going to be good for Kyler Murray. It's going to be a familiar situation. They're going to put himself in a comfortable situation. They're going to put him in a position to be successful, and that's huge. Now, I'm not sure he's going to have a big impact this year on your fantasy team in a redraft situation, but definitely in a dynasty situation. I may consider him a mid to bottom end quarterback 2 on my team right now, just because he has a lot of upside. There is a tremendous possibility that he could go places and do things this year, because I don't really like Arizona's defense right now. And well, if your defense is bad and you got a potential high power offense, hey, that's good for fantasy players, because they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. You know, you look at stats from last year, Tampa Bay had the highest passing offense in the league, the highest rate. How does that happen? Well, they were getting their butts beat up and down the field. They had no choice but to throw the ball. They had to throw the ball. That's what I think you're going to see in Arizona, something similar to that.
Yeah, you know, and I think that Kyler Murray, again, you know, he's not somebody that I'm drafting as my number one quarterback. He's not somebody I'm drafting as my number 2 quarterback. But if I'm at the end of the draft and I feel like I've exhausted my wide receivers and I've exhausted my running backs, it's about taking the best player available. And just because I can get 6 running backs in the Wake Up Call Fantasy Challenge doesn't mean I need them. I'm going to take 5, and if that last one I'm never going to play and there's no value there or whatever it may be, then maybe toward the end of the draft I make a little flyer on Kyler Murray, I stash him away, and I watch and I see what he does. And if he ends up being a little rookie phenom and one of my guys gets hurt, because you never know if somebody's going to get hurt. You never know if something's not going to work out, if one of those relationships is not going to fit. So if for some reason Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray work out and you pick them up late in your draft, then that could be a very smart move on your part. I just don't think that it's a move to make early. I don't think it's a move to kind of jump the gun on, and I don't think that it's a move that you need to, kind of bet the farm on for your fantasy team. I think he's a late round selection. He's the opposite of when he was drafted in real life. You draft him toward the end, not the beginning, and you see what he could do. I like Dwayne Haskins. 50 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, 5,000 yards passing. He's a pocket passer, contrary to some people's belief that maybe didn't watch Ohio State. He likes to sit in the pocket and pass the ball. Now, we know that Alex Smith, knock on wood, will hopefully be getting better, but he's going to be out for a while. We also know that Washington really doesn't have a lot that they can hang their hat on at quarterback. And they can say whatever they want to say about who the starter is going to be, but we all know it's going to be Haskins, at least eventually, if not right away. So I like Haskins. Daniel Jones is not going to play right away for the Giants. He's going to be kind of left up in the air. But before I bog down the conversation with a bunch of names at once, let's talk about Dwayne Haskins. I like him. I would put him on my team as a third quarterback. And if quarterbacks have a mad dash run, I might put him on my team as a second if I get the guy I want, and then I got to, kind of scrap toward the end, because I'm going to be focusing more on running backs and wide receivers, as we all should in fantasy. So what's your ultimate thought on Dwayne Haskins, Mike?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think it's a coin flip as to if he starts the season or not. But if it does come down to that, in the coach's mind, I think they're going to err on the side of what the heck, not on the side of caution, and they're going to go ahead and put him out there, especially when it's Case Keenum, who doesn't strike fear in many other people, or Colt McCoy. None of these guys are going to do anything. Alex Smith isn't coming back anytime soon, if he ever comes back. So that train has left the station.
Yeah.
So there is a good chance it's going to be Dwayne Haskins. There's a good chance he's not going to be a quarterback on my fantasy team, especially in a redraft situation. In a dynasty format, yeah, but I think we see a similar situation to Kyler Murray here, in that I don't think Washington's going to be very good. There's going to be some growing pains here. I mean, Darius Geis, supposed to be a top running back last year, is yet to really take the field with the big injury. You got 36-year-old, I think he's 34-year-old Adrian Peterson. You got some young pieces around him. I liked it, the fact that they brought in Terry McLaurin from Ohio State as well. Calvin Harmon should be an interesting piece. I don't think Paul Richardson or Josh Dotson brings fear into anybody's hearts, but they might be good for Dwayne Haskins, because these are guys that are still relatively closer to his age than a coach's age. And we've talked about this with Sean McVay, and that communication and the ability to take what's in the mind and in the black and white and put it on a field through that communication, which what I'm trying to say is today's athlete is a lot different than the guy who's coaching. When the coach was an athlete, you got treated a little differently and things happened a little differently. Now things are a little bit different in society, socially. Everybody's got their brand. Everybody's a media darling. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of growing pains here. So, Dynasty, yeah, I'm interested in Haskins. He's almost like a throwback, like a pocket passer, like you had mentioned. But overall, I think he's going to have a good career. I think he's going to be better than what they have in Tampa. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I would have gotten rid of Jameis Winston a long time ago. I just don't think it works out. So, but the reality of it all, and again, how many front office people and head coaches are going to lose their job while you continue to bank on Jameis Winston and the hope and desire that he's not going to have a BB gun or relations or ever drive in an Uber or ever see crab legs that he likes. There's a lot of questions that come up with Jameis Winston, unfortunately. But, on the side of Washington, you brought it up. Terry McLaurin, Calvin Harmon, Darius Geis, it's youth. If the youth of Washington goes, so goes, Dwayne Haskins and his success. If he could throw to these guys and they're getting open, because we don't trust Paul Richardson, we don't trust Josh Doxson. But if Terry McLaurin is getting open and doing his thing, and he's already got a relationship with him from Ohio State, and Calvin Harmon's going out there and doing his thing, and Darius Geis is playing his game, and we get to see him healthy after he tore his ACL and didn't get to play his rookie season. So this is his rookie season out of LSU. Then, there's a lot to be had about what Dwayne Haskins can do. I like him. I think he's talented. I trust my gut. I bank more on him than I would bank necessarily on somebody else right now. I'd bank more on him than Kyler Murray right now. And like you said, if they're going to be struggling and they're going to be playing down, well, he's going to have to throw the ball. So he goes where these young guys go. But Dwayne Haskins, Kyler Murray, two guys late in the draft. There's no rookie quarterback that I would draft early in this draft. There's no rookie quarterback that I'm leaning on saying this is going to be the guy. But let's talk about three other situations. Drew Lock, because Joe Flacco, I think, has this year, maybe next year, let's say 2 years, and then he's done. So he's in Denver. Drew Lock's in Denver. Let's talk Drew Lock. Let's talk Will Grier, because I'm not outside of the realm of possibility that he might end up playing this year at some point, because Cam Newton struggles to stay healthy from time to time. And there could be a point in week 10 or 11, week 14, where we're going to see Will Grier. I'm just saying. And then there's Ryan Finley with Andy Dalton. Not that any of these guys are draftable. If you're in my leagues, you get the team quarterback. So if you get Cam Newton, you get Grier. If you get Flacco, you get Locke. If you get Dalton, you get Finley. So you kind of make out there, because outside of Haskins and Murray, these other guys are backups right now. But what are your thoughts on this, Mike? I mean, they're not going to be draftable individually. Team-wise, like I said, they are, because you get them just because. But Will Grier, Ryan Finley, and Drew Lock, what are your thoughts on any fantasy impact these guys might have this year?
Virtually none outside of an injury. And the Cam Newton thing does worry me. The Cam Newton thing, I think people are thinking about him getting hurt now. He's hurt now. He just had the shoulder surgery. So here's the deal. Will Grier could surprise some people, and I don't think he's a draftable guy in a regular redraft league. Dynasty, yeah, especially if you have Cam Newton in your rookie draft, you want to back him up with Will Grier, because Will Grier's the real deal. I saw this guy play here in Florida before he had some problems and had to leave. I watched him at West Virginia. I mean, just airing out the ball. Yeah. This guy's a baller. This guy's a player, and he's a winner. His team seems to win. His team seemed to rally around him, and I don't know if you remember, flashback, and maybe you do. Remember, was it Marshall quarterback, Byron Leftwich? His team rallied around him so much they carried him on a broken leg up and down the field from play to play. They would make 30 yards. The lineman would carry this guy down the field for the next play. I think Will Grier puts that spirit of leadership into the team around him, and I think that's going to be critical in his career to come. Ryan Finley, I like him as a guy that could jump up and surprise people, because, let's face it, Andy Dalton hasn't worked out. I know the red rifle, whatever you want to call this guy, it's just not working. He has A.J. Green, it's just not working. It's Joe Mixon, it's just not working. I know there's been some health issues with guys, but, when you can't win a playoff game, I got nothing for you. 6, 8 years, whatever it's been too long. So look for Ryan Finley to possibly take the field before the end of the year. But again, in a redraft situation, no way. And then again, in a redraft situation, no way with a Drew Lock. I do think there is a possibility for Flacco to become El Stinko out in Denver. But you know what? I don't believe that's going to happen. I believe he's going to flourish there. I think a guy who can put some air under the ball can actually flourish in a place that's got thin air. They have an excellent running game. They have excellent defense there. And the defense, it's underestimated here, but they're the quarterback's best friend. I'll say it time and time again. A team with a good defense, that's a quarterback's best friend. And, I think Daniel Jones may sneak on the field before the end of the year as well. I know you asked about the other three, but I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Daniel Jones. They went after Daniel Jones for a reason. They saw something in him with the system that they're looking to run. They're looking ahead. This is all, they're already looking past Manning. This is a courtesy now for Manning.
Yeah.
Manning's not wanting to get hit this late in his career. And my opinion is, when you're the guy that doesn't want to get hit, guess what's going to happen to you? You're going to get hit. If you play afraid to get hurt, you're the first guy to get hurt. You can't play like that. And there's, word coming out of Giants camp that, with age, he's feeling a little more brittle, and he's worried about that. I think we may see Daniel Jones sooner than we think.
Yeah, and I think that Daniel Jones is, and you brought him up. I mean, obviously, I see that Eli Manning is not going to be the future, obviously, of this situation in New York. I think Joe Flacco gets maybe 2 seasons. I think Eli might have this season. But my question is protection. And do you want to put Daniel Jones, your precious cargo, your top 10 draft pick, do you want to put him out there and put him in a situation where he could get injured because of the fact that your offensive line has not been addressed? So, I mean, that's the one thing that makes me a little bit leery about putting him out there. But, I don't disagree with you that Daniel Jones might be out there. But if you're drafting something, to me it would be Haskins, then it would probably be Murray, then it would be the tandem of Newton and Greer, then it would be maybe Finley because he might get on the field a little bit quicker, then a lock situation, and then the Daniel Jones, Eli Manning. I really don't like the situation with the Giants right now. I do want to talk fantasy running backs. We're going to jump into that conversation right now. There's so many. I'm going to kind of go down the line here. And Mike, let's go back and forth here. But I'm just going to make mention of names, and you can address any names that I don't say that you might think make an impact. But these are the fantasy running backs I believe can make a somewhat immediate, if not at least this season, impact in your fantasy. Josh Jacobs with Oakland, Miles Sanders with Philadelphia, Darrell Henderson with the Los Angeles Rams, David Montgomery with Chicago, Devin Singletary with Buffalo, Damian Harris with the Patriots, as well as Benny Snell Jr. with the Steelers, Raquel Armstead with the Jacksonville Jaguars, potentially Kadri Allison with the Atlanta Falcons. Those are and Travis Homer with Seattle. These are the guys that I'm really circling. There's a bunch of players that were drafted, Myles Gaskin as well with Miami, but I think Miami's got a lot of trouble. Did I miss anybody? Or let's just, start the discussion here. There are a lot of fantasy running backs that I think are going to help bolster up your team, and I think they're going to help fill out your depth chart pretty nicely. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was just waving there. I felt the freeze come, and I didn't want to freeze out there. I was waving on there.
You're just going to start going nuts. Right before Facebook does,
Josh Jacobs has what it takes to be the every down back. He's a beast. They're going to give him every opportunity. They're going to prove that John Gruden is right there and that Don Gruden knows what he's doing, and he drafted him for a reason. And you ought to too. I think he's going to be worthy of an RB1 on your team in a redraft situation. That's bottom end RB1 now. That's not a guy who, he's not going to be the number one guy. Let's not get silly here. He's not taking Saquon Barkley to town yet. But a guy who might take Saquon Barkley to town is Miles Sanders, and that's who was behind Saquon Barkley at Penn State and who has some of the same traits. And a lot of people are like, why I didn't really hear about this guy. Well, yeah, because he was always behind Saquon. He comes out and performs like Saquon, if not better in some instances. Yeah. And he tests out well, too, at the combine as well. This is a guy who I'm sold. I'm in. This is a guy who's RB1 upside. Now, I know the backfield's a little crowded there. I know with Jordan Howard being there, and Corey Clement's probably going to get the Darren Sproles touches. I don't think that there's going to be a problem for him getting on the field and staying on the field once he performs. Redraft situation, you could see him as a solid RB2 with RB1 upside. David Montgomery, I think, is going to be overdrafted. I think Chicago is a good situation. It's a good situation for him. They just jettisoned, Jordan Howard, but they got Tariq Cohen there. And I think it's going to be more of a timeshare thing until Chicago gets comfortable with him and he gets comfortable with Chicago. Because don't forget, around the league, and this is a copycat league, around the league, everyone's going to this two-backer committee situation. I just find it ironic how the past couple of years, the NFL stance is basically, running backs are a dime a dozen. Yet you go out and draft a bunch of good, solid running backs here again. So I'm always the guy that's looking for the opposite trend. You see, it's leaning toward this, then go the other way, because the general public usually doesn't know what they're doing. That's why gambling is gambling, and that's why the sharps make all the money, and the guy at the bar loses $100 a week on his team because he's betting with his heart and not his mind. I can keep going here. There's one other guy, though, that really jumps off the paper to me, and that's Darrell Henderson. I think he's going into a great situation. I think the fact that Todd Gurley has some sort of injury, arthritis in the knee. I think they're going to pace him. I think they're going to pull Todd Gurley back a little bit. They're going to get explosiveness and better use, wiser use out of him, and they're going to use Darrell Henderson to complement Gurley. I think they're going to work great as that 1-2, and I think Henderson has RB1 upside this year. Don't get carried away. Don't go drafting him in the first round. These are guys that you're going to steal in the later rounds who are going to make you look like a genius come playoff time in your redraft league.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, in honor of Marshawn Lynch and his potential unretirement, I am not as big a Skittles fan as I am a Tootsie Roll lime fan. So this is for you, Marshawn. You see it? That's for you. Okay. And it's a little bit hard. So it's good, though. It's good. A little stale, but it's good. But the reality of it all, and that's kind of like Marshawn Lynch. He's pretty good. A little bit stale, but he's pretty good. So this is the way I look at things right now, and this is the reality of it all. I like these running backs. I mentioned a bunch of them, but I really, really like Miles Sanders. And I really, really like Darrell Henderson. And I know Damian Harris is going to get his touches. Listen, when you're in the backfield of the Patriots, you're going to get opportunities, okay? They found ways to get touchdowns for Rex Burkhead as well as Sony Michel and on and on and on and on and on. They're going to find ways to get you what you need. They're going to find ways to get you a score. So Damian Harris is going to be a guy that maybe is a flex guy for you. Maybe he's on the waiver wire. Maybe 3 or 4 teams own him in your fantasy league at some point this season. That's where I think he sits. Benny Snell Jr. I'd feel a lot better about if they didn't have Jalen Samuels and James Conner. If it was a little bit less crowded, because those guys are talented. At the same time, if Benny gets any touches, he's got a great chance to score because they arguably have the best offensive line in the country with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, in my opinion, it's not a bad situation, but Benny Snell is a guy that you draft really, really, really late, maybe Mr. Irrelevant, because of the fact that he already has a backfield that's crowded, but it's a different type of crowded than Philadelphia. Philadelphia's crowded backfield is who's going to, who is the real front runner? Who is the guy that's going to lead the charge? I look at Philadelphia as a dance party. And all of the running backs in Philadelphia, besides Miles Sanders, are, kind of sitting up against the wall going, are you going to ask her? I want to ask her. Do you want to ask her? I want to ask her. I don't think any of us are going to ask her. Where in Pittsburgh, it's like Samuels is pushing Conner out of the way and Conner's pushing Snell out of the way and going, hey, whichever one of us gets to the girl first, we're going to dance her socks off and you guys ain't even going to have a chance. So that's how I look at the two Pennsylvania situations. I think that's why Miles Sanders is going to emerge as the guy eventually. And I like his upside. Darrell Henderson, I love this kid. I got to watch him live when Memphis played up against UCF in the most recent American Athletic Conference Championship, which was played at UCF in Orlando, Florida. And Darrell Henderson, he's a big-bodied, muscular guy, big dude, hits the hole, and you think, okay, he's going to push it. And then he bursts right through it, and he flies down the field. I mean, this is a guy who has speed. He's light on his feet. And at the same time, he's got a lot of power. So, for me, Darrell Henderson is my favorite rookie that's out there right now at running back. And I'm automatically regretting the fact that I put this Tootsie Roll in my mouth because it's stuck to my teeth. But I love it, and I love lime, but it's literally stuck here like freaking chewing tobacco. So Darrell Henderson's my first choice. Miles Sanders is my second. Josh Jacobs, I'm leery of because, number one, I still don't know if John Gruden knows what the hell he's doing in Oakland. At the same time, the running game in Oakland's been kind of suspect. At the same time, Josh Jacobs is from Alabama, and we know that Alabama running backs struggle to translate into the NFL in recent history. I'm going to mention another guy, and that is Raquel Armstead. Raquel Armstead is a guy that I think, because Leonard Fournette has been all types of problems. He was drafted 4th overall. He cost a lot of money, but hamstrings are an issue. Jacksonville already went through that with Fred Taylor. What Jacksonville did not go through with Fred Taylor, as far as I can recollect, is they didn't go through the character flaws or the character issues or the I don't care about the game right now or I'm going to go punch somebody with my hands that I used to run the ball with, and I'm going to go punch a helmet with my hands in Buffalo, or the weightlifting, or the regiment and getting ready and getting prepared, or is he really in it? They didn't have to deal with any of those things. They just dealt with hamstring injuries. So I'm going to tell you this right now, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. If Leonard Fournette is underperforming, injured, or just an overall pain in the you-know-what, Jacksonville is going to let him go within the first 8 weeks of the season. By week 8, he'll be gone. Raquel Armstead, to me, has every opportunity to become the starting running back in Jacksonville. Whether you like him or not, I don't care. He's going to eventually sell jerseys. It's an eventuality. To me, it's not a if it's going to happen. It's a when is Raquel Armstead going to do it. So if you draft him and he's your 4th running back and everybody laughs in your face, let him laugh. I like Raquel Armstead as a late pick for you, and I liked the fact that Singletary could also be another addition in Buffalo, with them having Frank Gore and also having LaShawn McCoy, who are both getting up there. So for me, Harris is going to get you so much. Singletary is a late-round pick. Raquel Armstead's a late-round pick that's probably going to have the biggest dividends if you draft him late, because a lot of people aren't going to. But the two my favorites are Miles Sanders and Darrell Henderson, and by far Darrell Henderson I think is going to emerge as a starter, and I think he's going to be fantastic. And if Todd Gurley is injured, we're going to see it sooner. If not, and Todd Gurley plays, I still think we're going to see a hell of a lot of Henderson on third down, goal line, and in general. So I think Henderson is draft worthy in the middle of your draft. I think Sanders could be too, and I think that there's a lot of depth you can get from these running backs, but really the two guys that are going to emerge, in my opinion, are Henderson and Sanders. Would you concur with that, or is there any other notes you want to make while I try to get this Tootsie Roll out of my lip?
No, there's, and you make a good point there, and I was just thinking about Buffalo's backfield, and if I combine the ages of Gore and McCoy, I think they're eligible for Social Security.
Yes.
Here's the thing, Damian Harris is a guy that you want to consider in a dynasty situation. The only bad news about going with a Patriots running back, like we know, 1 week he'll score 4 touchdowns. He'll be on your bench, so you'll put him in your lineup the next week, and he'll be at the Kroger's bagging groceries. Justice Hill, same situation. Guy could be a power back on most teams, but now he's got Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards proved himself last year, so you want to be patient in that selection. Devin Singletary, I think, can carry a team. I think this is a guy who's going to have those old men in front of him, but an injury to one of them is going to set him free, and he's going to get on the field and not turn back. I think there's Alexander Madison. I like this because Dalvin Cook's ability to stay on the field and be healthy is in question. Yeah. I know in the past we talked about a Rock Thomas in Minnesota to take over, but it's going to be Alexander Madison if those things happen. You made good points on Raquel Armstead. I think that Fournette is very long in the tooth on the Jaguars roster. I don't think he'll be around much longer unless he has a big bounce back year, which is what I don't expect from his counterpart on the defense there in Jalen Ramsey. I think he'll be jettisoned real soon as well. I like Darwin Thompson from Kansas City. The reason why I like him is Andy Reid takes guys. Remember Brian Westbrook? He takes guys that have a certain skill set. I see Brian Westbrook and Darwin Thompson. So look out for that term, long term. That's a name you want to keep on, under your hat, especially in a dynasty situation here. Bryce Love, I think he's going to have problems, but I don't know if he's going to be ready for the field this year. I like what Rodney Anderson and Travion Williams brings to Cincinnati. Rodney Anderson will probably get first dibs if Bill Mixon goes out on an injury. But I think Travion Williams will be the future and the answer there if that happened long term. So it's a coin flip on those guys. You make good points on Benny Snell. Benny Snell is a guy that I think could be the next Le'Veon Bell. So for whatever that means, if you draft him late in a redraft, or if for sure in a dynasty situation here, Dexter Williams in Green Bay, he can complement Aaron Jones, who's set to take off in his own right. Yeah. I'm looking at my list here. I don't really see much else here. Myles Gaskin does bring a lot of curiosity in my mind as to where he's going to go and what he's going to do because of the Josh Rosen situation. Yeah, Kenyon Drake was the guy, but he's not really the guy. He doesn't strike fear in anybody's heart. So I can see a Myles Gaskin coming over and taking over. It's just I'm real worried about what's around him, and that could damage a young running back because, well, he could be getting hit on every play, and that's not good for your rookie running back to be getting hit on every play. And one other brief situation, Jordan Scarlett and Elijah Holyfield both go to Carolina. Why is this significant? Because outside of McCaffrey, I'm not sure Carolina is happy with what they have. And again, just like that situation in Cincinnati, I think we could see a little more Jordan Scarlett, and then further down the road, punishing Elijah Holyfield. So, there's a lot of running back opportunities. Most of them are for a dynasty or a keeper situation. But as we pointed out, there's a couple guys out there. There's some gems. There's some diamonds in the rough out there. You just got to find them.
Yeah, and you bring up a point with Cincinnati. They brought in Travion Williams from Texas A&M, but then they also brought in the 6th round as well, Rodney Anderson from Oklahoma. I mean, they brought in 2 guys. They're not happy. They have Joe Mixon, they have Giovanni Bernard, but they're not done. And is Giovanni going to make the team? I mean, Travion coming in, Rodney Anderson coming in. They're trying to build toward the future. They've always had in recent years 2 or 3 heads at running back, and right now they're going to have 4. So somebody's going to be left on the outside of this thing. And Cincinnati's situation in and of itself, I think they need to kind of look to the future and get ready for that and let Ryan Finley take over at quarterback. I do want to mention, because I did in the beginning and then I didn't say anything else after that, I don't want to skip them, is Miami Hurricanes alum Travis Homer, who's coming from Seattle, and he has an opportunity to come up and do his thing. And, Travis Homer, in my opinion, is someone that could make a splash because, I mean, Seattle's got Chris Carson, but we know that Chris Carson's been injured. We know that Chris Carson is pretty good, but I think that they need more than one option in Seattle, and I think Travis Homer can be that option. I don't know if he's going to get you crazy yards. He might get you 40. He might have 8 carries. He might have 3 carries, but I think he's going to score for you. So I think Homer's one of those late additions that you pick up, toward the end of your draft. Let's say round 14, 16, you take a flyer on Homer. I don't think it's a bad bet by any stretch of the imagination. I like the fact you brought up Gaskin because Miami's got an open door there and somebody's going to come through it. And Dexter Williams as well, because as much as Aaron Jones is supposed to be the guy, and they've had other people there to try and, take over and be something, including, with Williams and whatnot, I think that ultimately Dexter Williams is a guy who is going to step up, and he could supplant Aaron Jones, or he could just find his own place. No matter what, he's got an opportunity to be the number 2 guy. So I think Dexter Williams and Myles Gaskin are going to have an impact. I think Homer's going to have an impact. I think Williams could end up being the number 1 guy. And Darwin Thompson was at Utah State, and he was coached by the running backs coach that used to be there that's now at Texas Tech, who's my guy DeAndre Smith, who puts together damn good running backs. And this man ran for 153 attempts, 1,044 yards, and 14 rushing touchdowns, 6.8 yards per carry. So, yeah, you brought up Darwin Thompson, and they got to have a running back, don't they? Because they got Slim Pickens in Kansas City. So I think, in all honesty, Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, Darrell Henderson, David Montgomery, Devin Singletary, as well as Raquel Armstead and Travis Homer and Dexter Williams and Myles Gaskin and Darwin Thompson all have the opportunity to become the number 1 option this year on their respective teams. That's a lot to be said about the running back situations around the league. And it's also going to make you feel better that there's more depth in the league at running back than maybe we've seen in past fantasy drafts. So my kind of end-all, be-all of this is Gaskin you could probably let go to free agency. Dexter Williams you could get late. Homer you can get late. Travion Williams and Rodney Anderson in Cincinnati you can let go to free agency. Jordan Scarlett you could probably let go to free agency. Raquel Armstead is a guy that I think if I don't get him, or maybe Mike doesn't get him, he's going to be in free agency. Benny Snell might end up in free agency for you. Damian Harris, potentially free agency. Somebody will pick him up. And then Singletary, Montgomery, I'm looking for somebody to take them. Someone's going to go too high on Jacobs, but ultimately, once again, I end where I end. Sanders 2, Henderson 1 is my thought on these running backs. And Mike, can you feel that? Can you get a sense of that we're having a genuinely good, deep, flavorful running back discussion with rookies, which I feel like we haven't been able to do in a while?
Well, I mean, we talked about 19 or 20 rookie running backs here, and it's basically one per team. So it's something that's going to be constant. You have to run the ball to be successful in the NFL. You have to run the ball. If you don't run the ball, you're not going to be able to pass the ball. And I learned that. You know where I really learned that? I learned that from playing the video games because you have to run the ball, and otherwise the defense is just going to stack 8 guys in the box, and they're going to come after you if they know all you're going to do is run the ball. So you run the ball to set up the pass. I know it's an RPO or passing league, but don't forget the first word in RPO is the R, run. So you have to have running backs.
Yeah, absolutely, and we continue that discussion with the fantasy rookie players that we have here, and we're going to. Mike is blowing a kiss to everybody right now, so I hope you can accept the kiss. It's all love for Mike. Let's bring Mike back in here, and as much as he's blowing you a kiss, and I want to keep that with you forever, we're gonna bring Mike back in officially and continue the 2019 fantasy rookie discussion as we do this here with Mr. Mike Shafka, coming back in here of Hall of Fame Fantasy Football.com. So Mike is back here with us. He blew you a kiss. I hope that you took it. I took mine. I put it in my pocket for later, and I hope that you all enjoy it. So the fantasy rookie discussion continues, Mike, here on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT, where y'all are watching, and also where you're listening on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage, where the MixLR feed is embedded for the live stream. So with that being said, Mike, let's have this discussion on the fantasy wide receivers. Let's jump to now. There's a bunch of them that have been picked up. Marquise Brown was the first one taken off the board, 25th overall out of Oklahoma. N'Keal Harry was taken at the end of the first round by the Patriots in the 32nd pick of 32 picks. Then we saw Deebo Samuel go from South Carolina in the second round, top of the second round, to the Niners. A.J. Brown went to Tennessee, who I'm very proud of them, waited an entire first round before they got their receiver, since they always draft wide receivers high every single year in recent history, no matter what's going on. McCall Hardman is in Kansas City in the second round. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is going to the Philadelphia Eagles. Paris Campbell is heading to Indy, and so on and so forth. And DK Metcalf is obviously going to be moving forward as well in the second round. And the other second round pick right before DK was Andy Isabella, who's going to Arizona. Arizona drafted 3 rookie wide receivers in this draft as they try to get some help to Christian Kirk in the future of Arizona with Kyler Murray thrown to him. Let's start the discussion on the Arizona or on the wide receivers, Arizona, and everybody that's out there. What are your thoughts so far?
Well, there's a metric that I've been using for a few years, and I'm going to put up this year's graph here on the website later today, so you're going to want to check that out. It's called the Adjusted Explosive Index, and I've talked about this at time, here and there, but let me break it down for you. I've basically taken the rookie combine numbers, so you add the height, you add a player's height, their weight, their vertical jump, and their broad jump, and then you divide out the 40-yard time. Yeah. Now, again, that's called the Adjusted Explosive Index. Now, what makes this key? It's a metric. It's a measuring tool. It's how to size up. It's not 100%, but it's pretty interesting. For instance, the guys that have scored or registered a 106 on this metric over the past 10 years, I'm sorry, even longer than that, to 99, only 10 guys have topped 106 on this metric. And I'm going to throw out some names on here, and you decide for yourself if this metric is a worthwhile tool. The guys that have topped the charts since 99 to 10 guys: Calvin Johnson, Andre Johnson, Julio Jones, Vincent Jackson, Dave Moncrief, Chris Conley. These are some names of guys that have performed pretty solidly in the NFL. Now, last year, DJ Moore was the top of the charts, and he looks like he's fitting in nicely in Carolina. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with this metric. The problem is some guys don't participate in all the combine events. Some guys won't run to 40. I can't complete this metric, so there's just an incomplete. The interesting thing to me is the guy who tops the charts this year is a DK Metcalf. Now, I said, going back to 99, only 10 guys have topped 106 on the scale. He's at a 110.27, which is huge, DK Metcalf. Miles Boykin is right behind him at a 108.48. Then I got 3 or 4 guys stuck right after in the 104 area there. Paris Campbell, Emmanuel Hall, and Hakeem Butler, followed up by N'Keal Harry, Terry McLaurin, and A.J. Brown and Deebo Samuel. Now, again, this metric is a measuring tool. For instance, in my heart, I want to believe Mecole Hardman has the best opportunity for immediate upside, immediate success in Kansas City. Yet he's nearer the bottom of those guys on this metric at a 95.27. So, I'm a big believer in math. I'm a big believer in you can't change the laws of mathematics, but you can use the mathematics to your advantage. Take these metrics and utilize them. That's what they're there for. You don't go by them line by line, but that's part of your factoring and part of your ranking of an individual player and critical analysis for a rookie wide receiver, because generally speaking, rookie wide receivers take about 3 years to gel and become something in the NFL. You get guys that break that norm in a Randy Moss, for instance, who comes in and just takes the league over.
Yeah.
But the guy I like the most this year in the wide receiver situation, in a redraft situation, is N'Keal Harry. I don't think that Bill Belichick drafts many wide receivers in the first round, and they've always needed a wide receiver or a first-round talent. They like what they see in N'Keal Harry, and I like him a lot. I do like DK Metcalf a lot. I do like A.J. Brown a lot, but I think he's going to be overdrafted. So these names I'm giving you now are names that could help you in a redraft league, but I think A.J. Brown may be overdrafted. Look, Marcus Mariota is not very good. He's just not. He's injury prone, and he would have done something by now. When Jameis Winston looks like a better quarterback than Marcus Mariota, you know where you stand if you're Marcus Mariota. And Corey Davis needs to show up. He's going to have his opportunity this year. They're going to throw the ball. They're going to have to. But don't forget, they got an excellent run package, that 1-2 run package in Henry. Henry, they're going to try to force feed the ball, and they're going to make it so that he gets a workload. So I don't want to go through all my names yet here, but at the same time, you got to look at guys that are going to get opportunity right away. You got to look at Paris Campbell. You got to look at a Deebo Samuel. These guys are going to have opportunity to take the field sooner rather than later. So redraft only, those are the guys I want. And it just so happened these guys are near the top of my list in my dynasty rankings as well. So I have a complete rookie ranking on the website, or you can always message us with questions. You can check us out on Facebook, of course, but I can keep going. I could go another hour just on wide receivers. I'm telling you, Dan, I'm excited.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm really excited about the running back side of things, and then I'm looking at wide receivers saying, okay, well, Marquise Brown and Miles Boykin are going to get opportunities right away because Baltimore doesn't have anybody that's a front runner there. They tried out John Brown, brought him over from Arizona, let him go. Willie Snead brought him over from New Orleans. He's there, but he was last year. Michael Crabtree brought him over from Oakland, let him go. So they're looking to the youth now. They got 2 young guys that they drafted, Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews at tight end last season. Now they got Marquise Brown and Miles Boykin that they drafted at wide receiver this season. Gus Edwards is young in it, and he has a good relationship with Lamar Jackson coming out of Rutgers. They got him in the backfield. And so really there's a lot of youth there outside of the fact that they brought in Mark Ingram from New Orleans to help with the running back situation. So, for me, I think Baltimore's got a lot. The fact that they're going to be running the ball and they were going to be installing those packages, I know you said because they're going to be running it so much that when they do pass and they, throw over the top and whatnot, that Marquise Brown and Miles Boykin are going to benefit from it. My only issue with this is the fact of, how accurate. I like Lamar Jackson. I'm a Lamar Jackson supporter. I think he's going to be successful in the NFL. I said he was going to start before the end of the season. I said that this was going to be his team very quickly, even though Joe Flacco was there, and I was right. So, do I think that Lamar Jackson can get the ball down the field? Yes. Do I trust his arm more than his legs right now in the NFL? No, which is why Marquise Brown and Miles Boykin I kind of shy away from. Now, N'Keal Harry, he is somebody that I would definitely pick up because, like you said, how often does Bill Belichick spend first-round money on skill players, running backs, wide receivers, and whatnot? The reality of it all is last year in the first round, he got Sony Michel, which I said, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That man's going to be out on the field week 3, week 4, pretty damn soon. You're going to see him because they're spending good money on him, and they don't go out and get running backs that anybody knows. They go get no-name guys like James White, and they put him on the team, and then James White emerges into something beautiful because of his work ethic and that great offense that Bill Belichick has. Well, N'Keal Harry is a talent. Sony Michel is a talent. They're talented guys that are going to come there and be an immediate impact. So Sony already did it. I think N'Keal Harry is going to follow suit. I don't think you're going to want to have to play against N'Keal Harry. And in all honesty, there's not a lot of running backs or, wide receivers in New Orleans or in New England that you can lean on. So N'Keal is going to get opportunities right away. Deebo Samuel is another guy that's going to get an opportunity right away. If Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy and is everything that we want to believe that he is, as far as, being worth that payment and whatnot, and having that success that he has. And I shouldn't say worth the payment because whatever you can get, go get it. But to see if he can really carry a team and be healthy, I'm excited to see what he can do with Deebo Samuel. So Deebo Samuel is a late guy for me, still worth it. N'Keal Harry, I would look at, drafting in your first few rounds. I don't think he's going to make it far down unless people forget about him. A.J. Brown, again, Mike, you brought it up. Listen, the reality of it all is Corey Davis is there. A.J. Brown is there. Everybody and their mother in Tennessee is pretty good on paper, but it's Marcus Mariota. It's the consistent, what are we going to do at quarterback? It's the consistent, who the hell is the number one guy? It's something that Tennessee has gone through. They've somehow found a way to win 8 games or 7 games or 9 games and be a playoff team, but at the same time, fantasy-wise, it doesn't bode well. I like A.J. Brown, but, and I like him more than some of the other guys on the board and would draft him higher than a Marquise Brown or Miles Boykin. But at the same time, his quarterback is Marcus Mariota. You have to pay attention to that. McCall Hardman's in a great position. He's coming out of Georgia. He's going to Kansas City, and they need help. So, from what we said about Hardman and also what we said about the running back situation with Darwin Thompson, there's open opportunities in Kansas City that didn't exist and weren't supposed to exist for the next 10 years, but they do now. So McCall Hardman's a guy to look at because he's going to get opportunities. He's going to have the ball thrown his way, and he's got a damn good quarterback in Pat Mahomes. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, I'm concerned because there's a crowd in Philadelphia and the ball gets separated around a lot. So could he emerge as a number 2? Yes. Alshon Jeffrey, as I said in our past wide receiver show, is the only wide receiver that I'm confident in Philadelphia as a vet. Paris Campbell, T.Y. Hilton needs help. It's plain and simple. Andrew Luck's going to put the ball downfield. He had a tremendous season last season, did better than I thought he would. Proved me wrong, and good for Andrew Luck, and I'm happy that he did. Some guys get mad when they're wrong. I appreciate the fact because that means a young man's living his dreams and kicking ass. And if he's doing that, I'm supporting it if he's doing it the right way, which Luck is doing. So shout out to Paris Campbell because he's a high draft pick. Or he's somebody that should be on your radar that you need to scoop up before somebody else does. Arizona drafting 3 wide receivers. I mean, I know they need the depth, but at the same time, I just want to make mention of this. There's a Keyshawn Johnson that they drafted. It was the 3rd wide receiver they drafted, but it's not Keyshawn that you think of Keyshawn, and it's not his son.
Give him the damn ball.
Yeah, give somebody the damn ball in Arizona. Maybe David Johnson, because he may be the top 3 running back in the country right now, but played last year like he wasn't even a 3rd-string guy on the Patriots. So we look at Keyshawn Johnson, who's not the Keyshawn you're thinking of, but his numbers are really good. In the last 2 seasons at Fresno State, 1,013 yards, and 2 seasons ago, last season, 1,340. Not, crazy on touchdowns, but he did have 8 touchdowns in each. He's just somebody to kind of keep an eye on. There's going to be opportunities on waiver wires and free agency. If you keep the team you have the entire season through, then God bless you. If you drafted immaculately and nobody gets hurt, that's great. but the fact that you might make 14 moves by week 2 is also a possibility. And Arizona is going to have a lot of rookie wide receivers that nobody's going to draft. And I'm very confident about it.
Hold up. If you're making 14 moves by week 2, you obviously haven't visited my site or watched us very much. I mean, that's that's a bad draft. I mean, that's like sending a chimpanzee to draft for you.
Well, some people send giraffes, but I mean, whatever animal you're sending, you got to be, a giraffe is going to go really high on stuff, and a chimpanzee is just going to be kind of wily. So you got to be smart about it. So make sure, like Mike said, that there's obviously you're paying attention to what we're telling you, because if you're making all those moves, you're admitting that you totally screwed up your draft, and you're trying to just clean it up really quick, and you're going to go through some turmoil, and that's just a reality. DK Metcalf, listen, Seattle to me has not had a dominant wide receiver in forever. So if DK Metcalf can step up, like you said, your adjusted explosive index, 106 is that high. He's 110.5. That's great for him. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It says a lot about DK. Hopefully it translates out onto the field. I like DK Metcalf. I'm not going crazy high on him. I'm not going first, second round on him. But third, fourth round, if DK's sitting out there, I'm going to take a chance on DK Metcalf. Terry McLaurin, I think, could be a little sneaky sleeper type of guy because of his relationship with Dwayne Haskins, and now they're both on Washington. Hunter Renfrow, if he wasn't in Oakland, I'd feel better about him because he's got great hands, but he's a guy that's out there. And Kelvin Harmon's another guy to watch out of Washington. But if you're looking at talent to help you right away, N'Keal Harry, potentially Deebo Samuel, Paris Campbell, and DK Metcalf are the ones that I feel the best about. But don't sleep on the fact that Marquise Brown and Miles Boykin might be able to step it up as well. Mike, any final notes on the wide receivers?
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of guys that you might be able to steal at the end of your draft, or maybe even pick up off the waiver wire. A lot of these guys have that one thing that kills. What is that? Speed. Speed kills. And we've talked about that time and time again, year after year. But it's a fact. If you're fast, you're going to get on the field. A lot of these receivers are in that 4.3, 4.4 range. Here's one that's 4.31, the fastest of a bunch, and Andy Isabella out of Massachusetts. Goes to Arizona, they're going to be throwing the ball all over the place. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot. So that's somebody to keep in mind. Deontay Johnson in Pittsburgh. There's an immediate opening for him to slide right in. And we've seen time and time again how Pittsburgh drafts these wide receivers. They explode. They're guys that some people have never even heard of. They explode on the scene. And then you know what happens? They go somewhere else to get a fat contract. And the most recent, of course, being Antonio Brown. But this puts Juju Smith-Schuster in that spotlight. I could see Deontay Johnson sliding in and taking that same path there. Jalen Hurd. Jalen Hurd, this guy is super fast. He didn't run to 40 at the combine, so I don't have a correct metric on him. But I like the opportunity he has there. A lot of people are sleeping on Garoppolo because he lost all last year. Garoppolo is still a very good quarterback, but I think Jalen Hurd will have an immediate opportunity. Riley Ridley didn't do too well on my metric, but that doesn't take away his namesake of where he played or the film I've seen of this guy. This guy can play. This guy can play receiver. Look out for a severe long shot here. If you're in a dynasty league, this is a name you want to snatch up very, very late. Dylan Mitchell on the Vikings. I don't have a metric on him, but Dylan Mitchell could be an impact guy. They're looking for a third guy there in Minnesota. It might be Jordan Taylor, who's been around, been kind of a journeyman, but looking for the impact of a Dylan Mitchell. Let me see, Gary Jennings. Gary Jennings in Seattle. A lot of people are sleeping on him because of all the attention going the other way to DK. A lot of these guys don't seem to understand that sometimes it's what's underneath. Sometimes if there's so much attention over here, hey, look over here, boom, I'm scoring a touchdown on this side. That's the power that Gary Jennings has. You mentioned Keyshawn Johnson. And so, again, a lot of these names we just mentioned may not be guys that are going to make an immediate impact. Could make an immediate impact, have a lot of upside. But these are late round guys just before your kicker and defense. These are guys you're going to pick up off the waiver wire that will make you look like a stud come playoff time.
Yeah, and the funny thing about DK Metcalf is, if you have a good combine, everybody's up your butt. I mean, everybody's talking about you and your numbers and this and that. Didn't have great numbers in college. 2017, 39 catches, 646 yards, 7 touchdowns. 2018, 569 yards, went down. 26 catches, that went down. 5 touchdowns, that went down at Ole Miss. But, he's a number on with the adjusted explosive index that Mike has on his website, and, the conversation that this guy could be somebody. So his numbers don't really state the case, but we'll have to see what he could do. Gary Jennings Jr.
And don't forget, he's the guy that put out that clothing line, the invisible shirts. Because he's always, whenever I see this guy, he's got his shirt off. But then again, if I look like him, I have my shirt off all the time too.
I read that book, though. It's called The Emperor's New Clothes. When they tell the emperor that he's got clothes on and he's straight up naked walking around, and it's all good stuff. So West Virginia, that's where Gary Jennings Jr. came out of. Nothing like talking about naked people and jumping to West Virginia. So, but that's what I did today on the show. Gary Jennings Jr., he had over 1,000 yards in 2017. He had 1,096, but he only had 1 touchdown. He was a touchdown machine last season, 13 touchdowns, 917 yards. How about this? He had 97 catches for over 1,000 yards in 2017. In 2018, he went down to 917 yards, but only on 54 catches. So he had almost 1,000 yards with 43 less receptions, and with 43 less receptions, had 13 touchdowns as opposed to 1. So doing more with less is Gary Jennings Jr., and if you're going to give him an opportunity to do more because everybody's focused on DK Metcalf, I think that that's another guy, and I'm happy that Mike brought him up because he is a draftable commodity because of that. Deontay Johnson, you're absolutely right. The guy's coming out of Toledo. He's not a highly touted guy. Toledo is not something that has a lot of focus. The school gets a lot of attention, not necessarily. So, the fact that they got Deontay Johnson and why, the why Antonio Brown, the why Juju, and now it's the why Deontay. Well, you said it right, Mike. They need a second wide receiver. They need somebody who's going to take some pressure off of Juju. And they're giving Eli Rogers another chance. They're giving James Washington another chance. But here steps in Deontay Johnson, who they drafted for a reason. The guy had 8 touchdowns last season, 13 the year before. He had almost 1,300 yards in 2017 and had 761 last year on 49 catches, averaging over 15 yards per reception, Deontay Johnson. So he's going to have a somewhat immediate impact. So, honestly, I think draftable, Deontay Johnson, Gary Jennings Jr., DK Metcalf, Andy Isabella that you brought up, if you're going to try one of the Arizona players, Paris Campbell, McCole Hardman, A.J. Brown somewhere, but later than I think he should be. Deebo Samuel, N'Keal Harry, Marquise Brown, Miles Boykin, they all have an opportunity. So I think it's going to be a deep draft for wide receivers. I think it's going to be deep for running backs as well. I'm a little bit more excited about the running backs, but the wide receivers are going to obviously have an opportunity to make an impact pretty quickly, including in New England. Our final piece for our 2019 fantasy rookie special discussion here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in our Fantasy Football Power Hour that's gone past 11 o'clock because we love you. Proudly brought to you by the Wildcat Sports Pub. We have the tight ends. TJ Hawkinson drafted first, 8th overall in the first round. TJ Hawkinson going to Detroit from Iowa. Noah Fant going from Iowa as well. 2 Iowa guys, both drafted in the first round of the 2019 NFL Draft. Noah going to Denver. Irv Smith Jr. going to Minnesota. Drew Sample going to Cincinnati. Josh Oliver going to Jacksonville. And Jace Sternberger going to Green Bay. Those are the guys I have my eye on. But also Tommy Sweeney, who was drafted in the 7th round out of Boston College to Buffalo. What are your thoughts on the tight end situation for the rookies, Mike?
Well, I think T.J. Hawkinson is the best one of the bunch. But at the same time, I'm kind of worried about Detroit because, well, Detroit seems to screw it up. Look what they did with Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron looked like he was being held back in Detroit when you look at what he was doing in Indianapolis. If you have a talented guy like a T.J. Hawkinson or like an Eric Ebron was and still is, you got to find ways to get him the ball. If it doesn't work in a traditional way, find a way to make use of the talent. That's what great leaders and that's what great managers do. They recruit great talent. Once they get that great talent, they know how to use them. They exploit their excellence skills, and they downplay where there's areas of opportunity. That's what they need to do in Detroit. This is critical. A lot of people, I think TJ Hawkinson may be overdrafted, but I don't know. Maybe it wasn't time. Maybe Eric Ebron was just not playing at full speed all those years. Maybe I'm wrong. But you take a powerhouse school like Iowa, out of the big boy football country up there in the Northeast.
Yeah.
And you look, that's a team that produced George Kittle. Look what George Kittle's doing in the NFL. Now they produced two more guys in a Noah Fant and a TJ Hawkinson. That's something else. I think Noah Fant's going to have some tremendous opportunity in Denver as well. I think Irv Smith was an interesting pick. It looked like Kyle Rudolph was going to be jettisoned out somewhere else. Looked like they were going to re-sign him. They figured out a way to make it work. They want to do that thing like the Patriots and some other teams have been trying to do, get multiple tight ends. Look at Baltimore. They got a strictly blocking tight end in a Boyle, and then they got two guys in a Mark Andrews and a Hayden Hurst who can score from anywhere on the field, line up in the slot, line up wide. That's the idea behind guys like a TJ Hawkinson. That's the idea behind guys like the Noah Fant. These guys can do it all. Jay Sternberger, I like what he has to offer. He's going to be playing a little bit behind Jimmy Graham, but look for Sternberger to jump in and take some red zone opportunities away from Jimmy Graham. I do like a Dawson Knox a lot in Buffalo. I think he's going to be the future there because, well, I haven't been able to name a tight end. You're going to say Charles Clay was a good tight end for Buffalo. Yeah, he was good. He was all right. You don't need good. You don't need all right. You need a guy who's going to show up. You need a Gronk-like guy. You need guys that are going to make the headlines. You need to hear da-na-na, da-na-na whenever this guy's running out to catch a ball. There's a couple other smaller opportunities here, like in a Drew Sample, a Josh Oliver in Jacksonville, who they need somebody in Jacksonville, and you know what? I like the guy from Houston, Kahale Warren. I think he's going to be able to do something sooner rather than later because I don't think they're confident in Jordan Akins. I don't think they're confident in what they got there at tight end. Nobody is stepping up. So I don't know if I would burn a draft pick in a redraft league on any one of these tight ends just because there's a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah.
Now, somebody else may get them, and one of these guys may take off, and you can go, Mike, you told me not to draft. Well, that happens. It's going to happen with at least one of these guys, I'm going to tell you. Can you pick one out of the 5 or the 10? You're like a 20-25% chance. So I'm not going to overdraft these guys. These are guys that if they're available late, hey, I'll scoop them up. And in the dynasty situation, I'm not scooping them up right away because they may take a year or two to develop. But these are guys that can have an impact on your league this year in a redraft situation if you don't overdraft them.
Yeah, and I think I think you're right. I think TJ Hawkinson and Noah Fant are really the ones to see come off the board. After your Zach Ertz's and after your Travis Kelce's and guys of that nature, because we did our tight end show and there's a lot of good tight ends that you could take beforehand before you go reaching here. But and not necessarily reaching, but I mean outside of Hawkinson and Fant and maybe Irv Smith, I think you're reaching. But Hawkinson had 760 yards this past season, 6 touchdowns on the same team as Noah Fant, who had 7 touchdowns, 11 the season before, 519 yards. So we know that both of these guys have been able to coexist with another tight end and be successful. Irv Smith had 7 touchdowns and 710 yards this past season with 30 extra receptions and played in 15 games because he played for Alabama. So he played all the way through. So he almost played a full NFL season, which is saying something about Irv as well. And Josh Oliver, somebody has to be the guy in Jacksonville for the love of Jesus. And they now have, Nick Foles as their quarterback. So don't look totally past Josh Oliver and the thought that he could step up and be the number one guy for the team because of the fact that Jacksonville simply needs a number one. And Josh Oliver's got the chance to take that just like anybody else does. So, I mean, the reality of it all is there's a lot of good opportunities out there. And, Mike and I have stated a lot of these opportunities to you at the tight end position. But I think TJ Hawkinson and Noah Fant, as well as Irv Smith and potentially Josh Oliver, can create some of those big opportunities for you if you need to draft a backup, which you probably should have one. And in my league, I definitely suggest it. I mean, I wouldn't be. I mean, if you somehow got T.J. Hawkinson and Zach Ertz, or you got Kelsey and Irv Smith, I mean, I think you're sitting pretty. So the reality of it all is, do what you got to do at the tight end position. But outside of four of them, four of these rookies, three of these rookies, there's not too much to write home about. Any final word on the fantasy rookie discussion, Mike? We've done quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. We have given people such a nice little holy grail of fantasy show here because it's just rookies that they can listen to and prepare for their draft. Any final notes about this?
Yeah, don't overdraft. Be patient. There's going to be guys that they're going to take. I guarantee Josh Jacobs is going in the first round in a draft that I'm in. And I'm guaranteeing the guy's a Raider fan. That's not who you are if you want to win. If you want to get a trophy case, if you want to get trophies, if you want to win money, you got to go against the grain a lot of times, and you can't draft with your heart. These guys may have come from your favorite college. These guys may be on your favorite team now. These guys may be the flavor of the week. They still have to go out and perform. But before they perform, they need to get on the field. Some of these guys, like running backs, they have to learn to pass block. If you can't pass block, you're probably not on the field that much.
Yeah.
These guys that are wide receivers, they have to run crisp routes, and they have to take a guy on that's probably been in the league, probably one of the top corners in the league in the opposing team. So be patient. Don't overdraft. And if you don't get one of these rookies, it's going to be okay. However, that being said, with the right rookie selection at the right time, these guys can take you to not only the playoffs, but your championship.
There are rookies, as Mike said, right place, right time in the draft that can help you, and I agree, win a championship this year. There are a couple of those quarterbacks. There's a quarterback or two. There's a bunch of running backs, a bunch of wide receivers, and a Hawkinson or a Fant away. You might be a Hawkinson or a Fant. You might be a Darrell Henderson or a Singletary, or you might, let me change that. I'll stick with Singletary. But you might, there's little pieces, little nuances, little tiny things. You might be a DK Metcalf. You might be a Darrell Henderson. You might be a Miles Sanders. You might be a TJ Hawkinson, a Noah Fant, a Dwayne Haskins, a Kyler Murray away from winning a championship. I know the ones that I like, and some of them I said in there that I would and some I wouldn't. I wouldn't Josh Jacobs. I wouldn't a Kyler Murray. There's certain ones that I'm going to stay away from. It's not that they don't have upside, but I trust my gut. You do your homework, you do your research, and then you trust your gut, and you do what you can with that. So draft smart, draft well, and always know that you can literally go to one place, and it's all free. Go to wakeupcalldt.com. You click on Fantasy Footballs tab. When you click on that tab, every video appears. Every quarterback, every running back, every wide receiver, every tight end discussion, as well as this fantasy rookie discussion. There is no reason without this mound of information that you cannot be successful drafting this year. Mike and I are not foolproof, okay? Like Mike said, somebody's going to jump up that wasn't. Somebody's going to fall that shouldn't. Who would have thought that Adrian Peterson would get bumped out of the league for doing something off the field when that was supposed to be a big year? Or that Todd Gurley would be misused by Jeff Fisher, but it happened. So we trust our advice, and you can always come to us. You can always message us. You can always get a hold of us. If you're in your draft in the 11th hour, in the moment, and you need help, send us a message. Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, Twitter at CallDT, Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT, or you can go to wakeupcalldt.com, and while you're watching those videos on the Fantasy Football tab, you can see right in the right-hand corner, have a question, send the question. You put your name, you put the subject, you put the question, and Mike and I will answer it for you. You can also do it in the live videos here. So, Mike, as always, we're here for the people. We appreciate them, and if I've learned anything about life, it's very hard for us to draft against each other, but I like it. And, maybe one day we can have a super baby and put our team together.
Yeah, I'll take a pass on that, Dan. Thanks.
Well, putting the team together, not having a super baby. We're dudes. We can't have children. We can't birth them. Hopefully I can have them. You have one. Hopefully I can have one. But I'm only responsible for half the child, Mike. I can't birth the baby. But if you ever want to make a fantasy baby, I'd love for you to be the co-father, is what I'm trying to say.
All right.
I wanted to make it as awkward as possible. You knew I had to do that. So for Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame, fantasyfootball.com, the fantasy rookie discussion, and outside of Mike blowing you one single kiss, Facebook behaved itself today. So thank you so much, Mike. And of course, I'm Dan Tortora. This is Charney's Menswear and Tuxedo Studios. God bless and thank you to all of our partners. And Mr. Sofka, I appreciate you as always. Discount right here. There it is. Discount Orlando 40. Go to HallOfFameFantasyFootball.com right now and type in the promo code Orlando 40 and get yourself some great advice and some help on a tremendous season coming up. Mike, as always, I appreciate you, sir.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Talk to you next time.
All right. Take care. And this is your Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub.